Sairam? Having a nice day? Okay, so let's make it nicer. Some more people to come. Okay, so let's begin with a small recap of what happened yesterday. So yesterday, we were talking about why this is important, why I am important. I am important because all that I experience of life happens within this space. All that I see through my eyes, all that I believe, everything happens here. The quality of my life happens in this space. Then we did a couple of techniques to see how do I pay attention to this space. One is by being here and now. Being now in the moment and being here, paying attention to what happens within the space of the body. That is one way of bringing ourselves back into this space. Looking at sensations, looking at emotions, watching. Just watching. Observing, not judging, not labeling, only watching. That is one technique. The other one is to ask, who am I? From that moment we wake up, we become aware of first ourselves. We become conscious. So from that moment, I am happy. It feels like a nice day to me. This is not going right for me. I don't like this person. I think this should be this way. So all experience of life first begins with I. First you become aware of I, and then everything else flows out of the I. So that is why it is important to start looking at what is this I. From morning to night we are going on saying I. Who is this I? What is it composed of? Where does it come from? Where does it go? So the I. Now we have a third technique. This technique was propounded by Mrs. Phyllis Crystal. A lot of you would have heard of Mrs. Phyllis Crystal? Okay. So she spent many years with Swami, and after a great deal of meditation, she arrived at the use of symbols to guide the subconscious mind. Yesterday, you remember we spoke about the subconscious mind. You remember the picture of the iceberg? Now, becoming fully conscious is about throwing light into the subconscious part of us. The part that has been holding us captive always. The part where we react and we are not able to respond. The part that we are not aware of. And symbols are a very, very powerful way of creating an impression on the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is actually very, very childlike. It does not understand words. It does not understand theory. But it responds very, very effectively to symbols, to colors. That's how children are. They respond very well to visual media. So how to create an impression on the subconscious mind? Mrs. Crystal gives us many, many powerful symbols that she received in her meditation. She wrote a book while sitting in Whitefield. Swami blessed her work, and we are very, very fortunate to be having the legacy of Mrs. Crystal and being able to use it in our work. So what do these symbols actually do? And what are we trying to do when we do this inner work in the subconscious space? We are actually trying to reclaim our space. The space that has been affected by, controlled by eons of conditioning, not just from this life, but lifetimes ago. So how to reclaim this space is to use symbols. Symbols, because the subconscious mind is very impressionable, it understands symbols better than anything else, which is why the media is so effective. Just if you see an ad, whether you like it or not, you will go and buy that product. All of us, whether you want, some part of us wants to be thinner, richer, fatter. Thinner, richer. Thinner, richer, and more successful. Why is it? Because the ads have come and impressed upon the subconscious mind. So this is how the subconscious mind has to be impressed upon. And we will do certain kinds of symbols. I'll explain to you how they are used, when they are supposed to be used, and in what circumstances they can be used. One is our identification with people.
Supriya, quick request. Can you hold the mic closer to you?
Okay. Yeah. This is better?
Yeah.
Okay. One is when we are deeply identified with people. Mothers are deeply identified with their children. When I say identified, it doesn't mean having a relationship only, but it means being so deeply attached that the attachment comes in between. It obstructs you from real freedom. It becomes an obsession. It becomes an identity that the egoic self takes on. For example, it can be with a person, it can be with having a self-image. I am clumsy. That can become such a deep attachment, such a deep identification that we will live life after life believing and then reenacting that self-image. I am clumsy, I am ugly, I am not good enough. Anybody deals with the self-images like this? I am not good enough, I need to be a better devotee. I am not loved enough. And from that self-image, our egoic self enacts so many things just to validate or to build on that. If you think deep down inside that you are not good enough, then you will spend your entire life pleasing people. Being a good person, being a spiritual person. And when I say being a spiritual person, it means not just being a spiritual person, but being a spiritual person out of compulsion. Because for the need of approval, for the need of appreciation, because deep down inside you feel you are not enough. So many of us become attached to being good, being attached to being sweet, being attached to being a very good mother, being attached to being a very good Sai devotee. So whether or not we are in that place to make that commitment, we will still say yes. So these are a few of the attachments. The other thing is emotions. Anger, jealousy, envy, guilt, shame. A feeling of not being good enough. We need to do so much to get Swami's love. Other people are better than us. I have not done enough to get Swami's love. These are the self-restricting self-images that we hold on to, that we are identified with, and which the egoic self does not want to let go of. It wants to keep you smaller so that you don't find your inner light, so that you don't find your higher self. So it will go on keeping you enmeshed in that cycle of thought and feeling. I'm not good enough, I need to do more. I'm not good enough, I need to do more. Maybe next life I'll do better. Swami spoke to him, he must be really good. I'm not that good enough. And then it goes on and on and on. And you'll carry it from one life to the next life to the next life. So images, feelings, people, things, addictions. Addictions not necessarily only alcohol or drugs. Addictions can be to anything. To coffee, to chocolate, to tea, to talking. The need for expressing yourself all the time. The need for attention, that can be an addiction. When there's a group of people, if you are compulsively needing to talk, that is something to be looked at. Need for attention, need for looking a particular way. So all kinds of addictions. How many of us feel comfortable sitting alone by ourselves? Just alone, doing nothing. Not looking at your phone, not reading spiritual books. Even reading spiritual books can be an addiction because we are so deeply uncomfortable with being by ourselves. And how many of us sit alone, but mind is going everywhere else? It is not just about physically sitting alone. It is about deeply feeling comfortable with ourselves, just with the I, not with any identification, not with the egoic self. So, Mrs. Crystal's technique is about reclaiming that inner space and freeing ourselves from all these false identifications, from all these false securities. Let me start with a small symbol. Actually, Mrs. Crystal, just this one symbol she practiced for 12 years. I mean, that's how powerful these symbols are. The first symbol that Mrs. Crystal practiced was that of the golden circle. So what she did was she imagined a golden circle, like a tube of gold on the floor, the radius of which is my arm's length, for each of you, your arm's length. And that golden circle, you must visualize as your space that is sacrosanct, your space that where you act in complete freedom, unhindered, unencumbered by all sorts of false securities, all sorts of identifications, whether it is an emotion, whether it is a person, whether it is a thing, whether it is a role. Sometimes people are so identified with their roles. You can be a teacher, but you must have the ability to drop the role when you walk out of the class. There are many people, after retiring, they're still lecturing people all over the road. As a mother, sometimes you're so over-identified that even when your child is grown up and that person needs to be in their own space, you are still monitoring that person, you are still micromanaging. That is called deep identification with the role of the mother. We must be in that state of freedom where we are able to summon the role when it's required and discard it when we are done with it. That is real freedom. Not when the role starts pushing us, not when the emotion starts guiding us. When we are free to choose and discard it at our own will. So the first symbol that Mrs. Crystal used was that of the circle. When you visualize a golden circle on the ground, the radius of which is your arm's length, that is your space. And what you're telling the subconscious mind is that this is my space. I act from this in a complete state of freedom, uninhibited and free of all false securities. So maybe we can start with that. You can just visualize your circle. I will guide you with it. You can close your eyes. I'll guide you. I'll help you with visualizing it. Close your eyes. Visualize on the ground a bright, beautiful golden circle, the radius of which is your arm's length. This golden circle defines your space, your inner space, which stands free, unintruded from all notions of false securities, all false images, all attachments, and all identifications. This is your space. When you are free from all these identifications, you stand there pure, empowered, and aligned with your higher self. You can open your eyes now. So this was just the beginning of what Mrs. Crystal calls the figure 8. I'll just go there so that I can show you better. Anyway, I'm here now. So what we're going to do is first practice the figure 8 with a person. A person that triggers us. Triggers us means produces a charge in us, which makes us very uncomfortable. It can be a boss, it can be your spouse, it can be some other figure of authority, anybody that triggers you, even a friend. So when you are in that person's presence, you start feeling discomfort in yourself. So how we do this is we visualize our own golden circle on the floor. We visualize ourselves in the center of that circle, and then visualize another golden circle right in front of our own golden circle, touching our golden circle but not overlapping. I'll repeat this. You visualize a golden circle around yourself, the radius of which is your arm's length. Then you imagine yourself in the center of your golden circle, and you visualize the other person in another golden circle right in front of yours, touching your circle but not overlapping with that circle. That person is in the center of his or her circle. Now what this indicates is, remember, we are giving this message to the subconscious mind. So what you're indicating to the subconscious mind is that I am in my space, the other person is in their space, we are separate, we are not overlapping, each one is in their own space. That person or thoughts about that person cannot invade my space. The next step is to visualize a neon blue light. You can see the light here. It will begin at the intersection of the two circles, and you visualize the neon blue light moving in a clockwise direction over the other person's circle, coming back to the point of intersection and going behind you in an anti-clockwise direction. So you see it's making an 8. Can you see it's making an 8? It starts over here, it goes around the other person in a clockwise direction, comes back to the point of intersection, and then moves around you in an anti-clockwise direction. So what this 8 is doing is that it's creating an impression on the subconscious mind that the other person's space is different and my space is different. It is creating a separation in the subconscious mind with whatever you are identified with whatever you are entangled with. It can be a person, it can be an emotion, it can be a thought, it can be an addiction. So since we're going to start with a person, I will ask you to visualize a person first. So what this neon light is doing is it is creating a separation, and the neon light also represents what Mrs. Crystal calls the high consciousness. We can call it Swami, we can call it cosmic consciousness. And what we are doing when we are creating the 8, visualizing the 8, is not only creating a separation between the other person and myself, but also surrendering to the cosmic consciousness. So when we create a separation between ourselves and the other person, it is not because we are better than the other person. We don't know. It is just because we are feeling entangled with the other person, we are disentangling. And we leave it to the higher consciousness to do what is good for that person and for me. Any questions? Yes. Yes.
How would you do it with an addiction?
Yes, I'll come to that. We'll first practice it with a person, and then we'll do an exercise with an addiction. Any other question? Yes.
Say that yes, we connect to the higher consciousness, but it also people who are related to not have a negative feeling of separation?
No, this negative feeling is not of this is not a negative feeling. The thing is that you are disidentifying with the negative feeling. So automatically when you clear off the negative feeling, what flows out is love.
Yeah, because when you say separation, it feels like
Yes.
you're, that should you separate, or, you're cutting off, but because she terms it cutting off the ties that bind, right?
But she's saying cutting the ties that bind, that cause bondage.
Right.
So we don't want that, because in bondage, actually true love cannot flow in bondage.
But so when you talked about, you're going to talk about connecting to the higher sea through the triangle. Okay.
Yes. Another question? Somebody had a question. You had a question?
Okay, I'll come. You covered it, but I was going to ask, what are we trying to do by doing this exercise?
Okay. I'll say it again.
Okay.
So what we're trying to do, we are not creating a separation in real time, not in the physical dimension. We are only trying to disentangle our subconscious mind. So this work is inner work. It has no physical correlation. We are not separating mother and child. We are separating within the consciousness of the mother, her attachment to her disturbance that is caused by, let's say, her stubborn child. That part of her that is suffering, that part of her that is attached to the concept of, oh, my child is so stubborn. That we are separating the person from the suffering, not from the actual physical person. Is not happening in real time. It is happening inside your subconscious mind. So that your subconscious mind is completely free, disidentified, and so that real love can flow.
All our exercises in this entire workshop is only for one purpose: to put this in the right space. And from there, whatever response needs to come, can come. That is all this is all about.
Any more questions? Yes.
Sorry, can you clarify what the blue is again?
Okay. The blue light, the neon blue light, represents the cosmic consciousness. It represents what she calls high consciousness, or God, or Swami, or unconditional love. So what you're doing is, within your subconscious mind, you are creating a separation between yourself and whatever you're identified with. It could be a thought, it could be a person that is creating a charge in you, some disturbance in you. And at the same time, you are surrendering to God, saying that thy will, not my will. You are surrendering. It's just a form of surrendering to God. Like if you have a problem, you offer it to Swami. It's like that. Some more clarification?
I have a question. So when do you do this? Is this on a regular basis? Is there an event that triggers you to do this? And what do you expect from this? What should you expect? That's my question.
Yes, I was going to come to that. Okay, so typically when we practice this, the ideal time is a minimum of 2 minutes. You practice it a minimum of 2 minutes. Just before you sleep and as soon as you wake up will be the best time. Just before you sleep and as soon as you wake up, because that is when the subconscious mind is extremely impressionable. And that's where you want to send the message. So that would be the ideal time for a minimum of 2 minutes. But you can do it through the day. I'm just coming. What would you do it for? You would use it for two kinds of things. One is when you already know there is a typical pattern in each one of us, or there is a typical emotion that comes about in each one of us. There is a typical trigger that is quite constant. Like somebody may be very prone to bursts of anger. Somebody may be very prone to feeling small. Somebody may be very prone to feeling jealous. So that is something that's very typical of you, and with a little bit of awareness, we all know what we are prone to. So that is something that, or people, for example, we all know that, our mother or father or friend or relative, there is a particular person that always triggers us off. You can't tolerate that person, or you cannot feel good within yourself in presence of that person. So there's one instance where there is something that is typical of you that you can use continuously. So you can want to work on your parent, or you want to work on your friend. You can use this in the morning, just as soon as you get up, just before you sleep, through the day. In other situations, for example, you're going for a meeting today, you want to talk to your boss, but you're a little nervous about it. Or you're going, in India we buy vegetables, so sometimes we have to bargain. And many of us feel very horrible after leaving this place because we feel, oh my God, I've been cheated. Somebody just ripped me off. So there are certain situations temporarily in that moment you can use with that person. As I'm talking to somebody that I need to strike a bargain with, in that moment, visually, 2 minutes, even less than 2 minutes, just quickly do an 8. So in those situations it can be used, and it can be used on a continuous basis for a particular thing that you want to work on. A particular addiction, a particular person, a particular emotion. It can also be used with multiple things. You want to work with 3 things at a time, work with 3 things at a time. But each thing separately. For each thing, you should do a separate 8. Minimum of 2 minutes. Best time is just before you sleep and as soon as you wake up. But you can do it through the day. It's best. And when do you stop doing it? When you actually experience subconsciously, when you experience that person now does not have the kind of hold that he or she had previously, you will feel it. You will actually experience something like that. You will start feeling free of that object or that attachment. Yes.
If I go through this exercise every day, morning and evening,
Yes.
but other person doesn't do it, so how does that benefit to me?
So who do you need to free? Who do you need to free? Who is it bothering? No, but where do you feel the pain of those relatives?
When they are around me,
But where do you feel it?
in the heart.
In yourself.
Yes.
So work on yourself. Once you are free, how does it make a difference?
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Saira.
Is it not programming or conditioning? Yes, it is. It is not only programming, actually it is deprogramming. We are acting out of conditioned programs. You are deprogramming yourself. That program to retaliate or the need to respond in a particular way, react in a particular way, that is your programming, which you have collected from conditioning, not only this lifetime, from previous lifetime. So you are deprogramming yourself, uncluttering yourself. You are releasing those programs so that you can act in complete freedom.
Please wait for the mic and then ask the question.
Yes.
Saira, it's actually not a question, but I actually tried this, and even for things it does work. I'm a neurologist and I do the lumbar punctures, the spinal taps, which is a blind procedure, and it's most of the times very hard to get the fluid out. So what I do is, before I go for the procedure, I actually imagine the spinal tap, the needle in the other circle, and it worked really well for me.
Wow. Thank you for sharing.
I want to start with thanking both of you for keeping it as a sequence. This is so fundamental for each one of us to keep our space sacred.
Yes.
Yesterday, you both talked about emotion, and this is an extension to that. What happens, and you also said, if someone says you're clumsy, someone says you're good for nothing, so that emotion that comes, that is the thought that triggers an action from the body. If I react, that emotion gets trapped.
And gets strengthened.
Right. Where it gets trapped is not in the conscious mind. Because at the conscious level, I can easily pretend. But in the subconscious is where it gets trapped. And that's where from the programs are running, which we are not aware of. So when we do this, what happens is, let us say if my mother said I am good for nothing, that emotion gets triggered not when I see my friend who says I'm good for everything. It happens only when I see my mother, this emotion gets triggered.
That's right.
Now, when I do this exercise, what I am doing is I am not disassociating myself from my mother. What I am doing is I am releasing the trapped emotion that I accidentally thought is that my mother has implanted in me. So it is not my mother who is triggering it. The thought of what I have gone through when I see my mother because of the memory of the past bad experience is what is triggering this.
Yes,
That is
we got
exactly
it.
what we are doing here.
Yes.
Right now.
Any more questions?
Yeah, I have one and then Shobha has one. So my question is more technical. I've tried this before. So when you close your eyes and you see the circle, a lot of times the circle tends to come up. A lot of times the circle is not the perfect circle. It just does some kind of an oval or, different shapes. So is there any
So it takes a little bit of practice. It does happen. A lot of people say that their circle is not touching the ground. They're not able to imagine a perfect circle. Actually, this is all the resistance of the mind. The mind does not want you to do the work. The egoic self does not want you to be disidentified. Because if you are, then it will die. And the mind or the egoic self fears death. It will do anything to keep you separate. It will do anything to keep you identified. So all this is the function of the mind. You need to keep at it and gradually it will fall into place.
So just a quick question. I know what you're talking about this, but is it... are you also coming to the ritual part of it, the cutting thing?
Not for this session.
Not for this session, okay. No, because I had a question, because typically you do, I've done it many times with persons, things
Yes.
like that. 2 weeks you do it with persons, right? And of course the other things, but...
See, if it's not related specifically to the 8, I will ask you to ask me this question later.
Okay. No, the one only question was with the husband, right? They say that you can only do... Can you do a ritual cutting?
You can do an 8 with any person. It can be a spouse. It can be your parent. The 8, the figure 8, you can do with anybody. It is simply to free your subconscious of the identification with that person or a trait of that person which is triggering something in you. So you can do it with anybody. You can even do it if you are very deeply attached. Some people I know have done it with Swami's form. Because sometimes excessive attachment to the form, it does not let you be free, progress. Because so many people are so upset, Swami is left, that grief is not allowing them to move on. So I know a person who has actually done it with Swami's form. Anything, excessive attachment is bondage. Yes. Yes, very much.
Come on.
Yes. Does it work on animals or pets? It does, yes.
Sai Ram, I don't have a question, but I have a comment that I have been doing this for last 20 years. And in the beginning, it was very difficult to do. Then I will take a paper and I will take a blue pen.
Yes.
And I did it. So now I have reached to the point I don't have to do it. I'll sit and I'll put my hand here and I'll make circle. And it has worked.
Yes, that's true. I was going to come to that after doing a demo. But yeah, since you raised the point, if you are finding it difficult to visualize it, what you can do is take the help of a piece of paper and pencil and draw it so that you can impress upon your subconscious mind that 8. If you're not able to visualize, and like she had difficulty, the circle is raising, it's not getting into a circle, then you can just draw it. Or you use your finger and like on your thigh, you can just keep doing an 8. If you're not able to visualize it. If you're in a difficult situation and you are not having the calm to visualize it, then just keep doing this quietly. Yes?
So I understand that you would place the person or the situation in that other circle. I like to be expedient. Has anybody ever experimented with putting their subconscious in that other part of that circle?
People have put subconscious thought patterns. You can get very creative with this method. So you can do that.
Yeah, you don't necessarily need to know what the circumstances or the person is, because it is subconscious information that you're dealing with.
Yes.
So I think that would be I practiced this before, but I was just thinking, how to really use this and release the subconscious as much as it can be released.
You can be as creative as you want. There are people who've put their own body in the other circle because of excessive bodily attachment. You can put your disease, a disease that's bothering you. You can put the name, visualize the name of the disease and put it in the other circle. So actually I was going to come to the, the non-person things a little later. Maybe we can, yes?
Just one question. A long time ago when originally learned this, we also learned from Phyllis at that time, I'm not sure if this still applies or I got it wrong, that you put a pink light after you do the blue light because everything is love, to reinforce love in the subconscious mind that that's the way to be with everything because everything is one. So I'm not sure if that's still the way.
What I learned, we did not use the pink light in the 8, but we have used pink light. So in any circumstance where you don't want to necessarily use the 8, pink light is just a very simple tool. You're sending the love of God to whoever you want to send. So that's a healing, it's healing, re-energizing. You can send it, you can do it. But we have not learned it that way.
Thank you.
So just one to clarify, so you're putting the feeling as well as the person to whom it is directed at in the other circle. Is that right? Both of them?
You can the person triggers something inside of you, so you can do it with a person. Okay. But if you know, the deeper you go, you'll know actually that it's not the person.
Yeah.
In the beginning, we are more identified with people. You say, you get angry, then you say, it is because of that person. That person creates anger in me. As you deepen this work, you will realize, actually, no, I am prone to anger. It's not that person. For example, somebody was telling me that every time she got a new boss, she felt very unexpressed. She felt very scared and nervous every time. So initially, she would do it with every boss, each person that came. Then we realized that it's not about that particular person, but actually her fear of authority. That has nothing to do with that particular individual, but actually her fear of authority in general. So then as you deepen your work, you don't have to do it with that particular person, you can go deeper and do it with the fear of authority. When you go deeper and you see, and as you keep practicing, you will realize it's not just the fear of authority, maybe it's the fear of rejection. Then you do it with rejection. So as you deepen work in the subconscious, a lot of stuff will come out. Stuff that you don't like. And it'll keep coming, because it's like the dark room where there's a lot of stuff hidden. So we'll let all of it come out and then you will start feeling lighter and lighter and lighter.
Please wait for the microphone, ma'am. I'm sorry to interrupt you. There are people in queue. We'll wait for the microphone to reach us and then we'll ask her a question.
Next. Can you do this with a group of people in the other circle, or is it one at a time?
You can do it with a group of people if that group is a cohesive group. For example, you can do it with, let's say you left your job and you're very uncomfortable with that whole company. Then you can visualize that whole group of people because they share a common head. Yes, in those circumstances, you can do it with a group of people. Or, for example, a certain group of friends that they may have bullied you in school. They all belong to a particular group. Then you can visualize that group of people in the other circle. Let us begin now and do 1-8 with a person, and then we'll answer some other questions. So what we're going to do is, we will do the figure of 8 with one person that triggers and creates a charge in you, okay? You can close your eyes and and then visualize as I guide. Close your eyes. Imagine a golden circle on the ground, and you sitting in the center of the golden circle. A golden circle, the radius of which is your arm's length on the ground. You are sitting in the center of your golden circle. This circle is your space, sacrosanct, your space. Now, visualize another golden circle right in front of your golden circle on the ground, touching your golden circle but not overlapping with it. Visualize another golden circle on the ground in front of your circle, touching it but not overlapping with it. You can visualize the person that you want to create separation with. Remember, the separation is subconscious, it is not in the physical realm. Visualize a person that triggers you in the other circle. That person is sitting in the center of his or her circle. You are sitting in the center of your circle. These spaces are yours and his or hers respectively. He cannot invade your space and you cannot invade his space. Or she cannot invade your space and you cannot invade her space. Now, visualize a neon blue light starting at the intersection of the two circles, going in a clockwise direction around the other person, coming back to the point of intersection, going in an anti-clockwise direction around yourself and coming back to the point of intersection. The neon light moves in the shape of an 8. It goes from the point of intersection in a clockwise direction around the other person, comes back to the point where the circles are touching, and then moves in an anti-clockwise direction around yourself. Keep drawing the 8, visualizing the 8 in your mind until I ask you to stop. You can stop visualizing now. Slowly open your eyes. Come back to the present moment. Okay, so shall we share our experience? Any questions? Any observations? Yes.
As the two circles touched, I had a lot of sparks.
Okay.
That was it. And then it stopped as I went around and around. But in the beginning, lots of sparks.
And what did you feel?
I felt better. I felt better. I don't know yet.
Yes.
But
Okay.
it did spark.
Okay. Anything else? Yes?
It felt good that there was a space created between me and the person who I was imagining.
Yes.
But it still made me feel nervous because that person was close to me, even though they were in their separate space. So I had that nervous feeling, but I also didn't know, now that I created the space, what should I do next?
Okay, thank you for sharing. Sometimes we visualize people that we are not even able to bear. There are cases of people being abused. And when they try to do their 8 with the abuser, that picture, just the image of that person is so frightening. It makes them feel so uneasy. So when you are in a situation when you are doing the 8 with a person that is so difficult to be around, what you should do is visualize a barricade between yourself and the other person. It can be a glass barricade, and you can't bear the sight of that person at all. It is so immobilizing that you can't even do the 8. Then you visualize a brick wall between you and the other person, and then do the 8. Then what happens is that your mind is free of the image of that person, and yet the subconscious is receiving the message that me and that is separate. The barricade would be around your circle. You see, a circle is your sacred space. So you erect a barricade encircling you and separating you from the other person. So if it's very difficult, this is what we can do. And also, this is the beginning. When you start doing it twice a day, multiple times a day, continuously, that's when you start feeling separate from that. The identification starts weakening. Any other question?
Sairam, I just don't understand how it prevents the other person from invading your space. In reality, probably we could do it in our mind, but how do we actually in reality prevent the other person from invading our space? And how effective is it? Do you have any results? People tell you anything, how effective this technique is in actually stopping someone from invading your space?
Okay. How effective is it in stopping people from invading your space in the physical dimension? The thing is, when we experience a problem, we experience it first in ourselves. So have you noticed how we all react differently to the same person? You know, in my school, we actually had a couple of teachers who used to hit the students. Now, I also got whacked quite a bit. And there were other kids also who got whacked. But it didn't affect me at all. I'm out of it unscathed. But I know a lot of children who are very, very deeply scarred by that incident. So what happens in the physical dimension is experienced differently for different people. And where you are experiencing it is here. So I needn't have to do anything with my teacher. But there are other friends who need to do the 8. So the point is not to control the external situation, but to able to control, rather than control, to be able to clearing your space. Clear your space within. When you are free of this, doesn't matter what happens there. But having said that, there are plenty of cases where they say, I did the 8 and things started changing there. Because the energy then shifts. Once your internal energy, the vibration will be different. So things also change externally. But the intention is not to change things externally, it is to work on your space. What happens as a result of that? That is left to the neon light. So when we surrender, we are not expecting a particular result. We are not trying to control the outcome. You are letting go, surrendering to the high sea, saying I will clear my space, and then let it be thy will. Not my will, not the egoic will or the will of the person. It is not my will against the other person's will. It's not a battle of that. It is surrendering to the high sea. Thy will.
Sairam, here, I had a question actually.
Yes.
I mean, the whole point we are doing this technique is to have some distance from the actual problem.
Yes.
And we identifying that we are not hindered, or we don't have that problem, or we are not keep thinking about it. Now the problems would keep on coming throughout your life in one form or the other, right? Whether it's a thing, person, or place it is. So throughout your life you will keep on doing this 8, right? So, is that what we are trying to achieve? Because this is something you'll have to be doing throughout your life for the just basic thing that actually that doesn't affect me. Because at the moment, like when the thing is happening with a person or a thing, you can't close your eye and put an 8, right? You have to spontaneously react to the situation or go away from the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm just trying to understand how will this 8 help you in that aspect?
I think what he's saying is that if we have to do the 8, then we'll have to keep doing it all our life. Because there'll always be something that's bothering us. Is that right? So what's the goal? See, this is the work of a lifetime. It's not a quick fix solution. We have collected karma over lifetimes. To disentangle and disidentify from all of that, it will take some amount of work. But what does happen is, with more and more practice, your awareness becomes deep. And then the ability of that problem to affect you diminishes. So within a couple of years, you will realize that the same thing that bothered you so much, the intensity of that will decrease. And that you will experience. As you do it, with practice, you will see that.
Just to add a sentence to your question, sir. So problems are many. They appear as if a problem is coming every day. But when you go to the root cause, thousands of problems have only the same root cause. And as our egoic structures start to melt away and dissolve using 8, problems themselves become fewer. So it's not like you're jumping from one problem to another problem every day doing 8. You go deeper and deeper yourself, your ability to, as she said, handle problems also increases.
Right. That makes more sense, because I think you cannot go each problem wise, but intellectually once you understand that, it's all the same.
Yes.
The goal is one, to free ourselves.
Yes.
Then irrespective of whatever, you don't have to even do the 8. That's what I was trying to.
The other clarification that I'd like to bring is that, see, pain will always be there. Swami always says pain is the interval between two pleasures. So when we say pain, it means that the nature of life is like this. It goes up and down, up and down. You cannot resist the down. But you needn't have to suffer. Suffering and pain are two different things. Suffering is caused with all the mental diarrhea that we have around pain. Why am I like this? It should not be like this. I should have done better. Maybe it's my fault. Maybe it's that person's fault. All of that. When you're free of all of that, the way you look at pain is very objective. It comes, it goes. That is the nature of life. Any element that you see in nature, it goes up, it goes down. So even Swami was not able to prevent his body from decaying. Or so many things. Even the great masters had disease. They also grew old. They also had situations. Up and down is very normal. But your reaction to that, your response, your inner freedom, that you can reclaim.
Saira, I just wanted to answer one of her questions when she's asked you, like, did you see any outcome of changing others? I was in went to Phyllis Crystal's lectures in New Jersey, and one time she said, when she was traveling in the flight, they were hijacking going on, and when she did the figure 8 with the hijacker and he changed, and it is so powerful that you can, if you do it, and you can still control their bad thoughts of the opposite person also. And that was the best example of her doing it, and she could influence the terrorist and the hijackers, and they could. So that's powerful it is.
I just add, the goal of 8, as Supriya said, is not to change the other person, but this whole workshop is inside out. When there is sufficient transformation inside, some outward manifestation of that is definitely bound to happen. There's a lot of transformation here. This will not remain the same. This will reorient itself to reflect your new inner reality. But the goal of 8 itself is not to control the other person or to bring or manipulate the other person according to our wishes. It is to clear this. But when this changes, that will undergo some transformation. It's highly likely.
The other thing is, you cannot use 8 on somebody other than you. Like you see your brother and sister fighting, you can't put them both in the other circle. No, it doesn't work like that. It is inner work, yourself only.
Sorry, so I have a quick question. My question is why does thinking about the problem to begin with actually help? Doesn't that create more scope for thoughts to bother you? And
No, nobody voluntarily thinks about it. We are talking about situations when we are compelled, when it becomes compulsive. Nobody becomes angry voluntarily. It takes over you, and in those situations we use it. We are using this 8 in situations where all of these things are controlling us, so that we can reclaim our own space.
Yeah, so Sairam, so I just wanted to verify and speak to the effectiveness of this technique. So I am a psychologist. I've been using this for more than 30 years with my patients, and tremendous, wonderful results, even for people who've been severely abused, even for people who have addictions. It's very powerful. And for myself, because I've done it so many times, I use it every day. I just automatically on my leg, I'm just doing this all the time. It's very helpful in my work, every relationship. The basic concept is you want to be connected to that higher place and not have any kind of attachment that's negative. And you can just feel so free. It's very powerful.
Thank you so much.
I have one question. From the results, right, is it going to impact how our ability to fix the problem in a physical space, right? Because we are told from childhood that if you have a problem, you give the feedback and you fix the problem, right, with the other person. We cannot do that all the time, but probably with this technique, if we detach ourselves, will it hinder our ability to fix that problem physically?
So when you do inner work, and a lot of people have this question, it comes in different ways. Will you become a passive person and lose your ability to respond? No. On the contrary, you will be able to respond from a place of emptiness, so that response will actually be of greater value. It will be more aligned to the higher consciousness, to your higher self. So instead of responding compulsively, you will be able to choose and pick what is required for that situation.
There's one question.
One question? Okay.
One comment. Basically we are energy field moving in the body, and thought is also an energy.
Yes.
And again, body's reaction to thought is emotion, right? So when someone is triggering something, that is some aspect of that personality coming into my personal reality, that is my personality, which is personal reality, is triggering that reaction from me. So when I do this 8, personally I felt like we are not kicking the person out, we are just taking that aspect of the person, working on that aspect, so that aspect has no effect on me in a negative sense.
Very much.
Right? And when I do this, my energy field around me is going to change. As long as it doesn't change, that energy field, because someone said, how is it going to represent itself in the physical reality? The same person comes again and again. But as long as they don't change my energy field, I'll be attracting the same person in different forms or situations, and then triggering the same reaction through me.
Yes.
So once I change my energy field, I'll have a different reality.
Very much. Yes. So shall we do another 8? This time you can think of an emotion, or you can think of an addiction. Now how you visualize an emotion, you can be very creative with it. You can visualize the name, the words, guilt, G-U-I-L-T. You can visualize those letters in the other circle. Or you can be creative and have an image. Like if you're angry, you can imagine a monster, a big red monster. So this is not, see, because the subconscious mind is childlike, it will respond very well to images. This is not a small thing. It is not like something simple, so it's very, in fact, very, very profound and very, very impactful. So you can be very creative. If you want to create a separation with an addiction, you can actually visualize chocolate or whatever it is, alcohol, whatever you need to work on, or your phone, your cell phone. That's an addiction that everybody has. So you can visualize the cell phone in the other thing. So you can visualize with an addiction, with a thought pattern. Somebody has a recurring thought pattern, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. Visualize that. You can actually have an image, something that represents it very closely in your mind, or the words. You can be creative with that. Okay? So let us start with an emotion that you want to create separation with. Close your eyes. Visualize a golden circle on the ground, the radius of which is your arm's length, and then visualize yourself in the center of your golden circle. This is your space. Now, visualize another golden circle right in front of your golden circle, and visualize the emotion that you want to create a separation with, that you want to disidentify with, in the center of the other golden circle. The other golden circle sits right in front of your circle, touching but not overlapping with it. Now, from the intersection of the two circles, imagine a neon blue light traveling in a clockwise direction around the emotion, coming back to the intersection of the circles and going in an anti-clockwise direction around yourself. The neon light moves like an 8, starting at the intersection of the two golden circles, moving in a clockwise direction around the emotion, coming back to the center and moving in an anti-clockwise direction around yourself. Keep visualizing the 8 until I ask you to stop. You can open your eyes now. Come back into the present moment. Any observations? Yes.
This is a question. The neon blue light, can you go over again what that represents? It's
I'll do that.
higher consciousness?
Yes. So the neon blue light represents what Mrs. Crystal calls the high consciousness. It is the universal will. Universal will means that which is good for everybody, that which looks after the highest good in everybody. So when we do the 8, it is not about controlling the other person. It is about freeing your own inner space from the other person, but also wishing the other person the best. What is the highest good for that person? So what we are doing is, by visualizing the neon blue light, we are surrendering to what we call Swami or God or the higher self, such that the other person is safe and happy in their space, we are safe and happy in our space, and may good happen to everybody. You're surrendering. So what you're telling the subconscious mind is, you're not strengthening the egoic will of yourself. You're not strengthening your personality against the other person's personality. You're bowing down to that which is good for both. That is why it's important to understand that it's not necessary the outcome that comes is what you want. It is what is best for both.
I think this time it worked for me a little bit because I am a little bit addicted to dessert, donuts. So I put the donuts on other circle, and every time it happened, I wanted to go and grab the donut and go to other space, but still I pull back myself. So it worked a little bit here.
It's a very good idea. You keep doing it and you will find that you don't need it as much. Yes.
Can we do it for the wish of others?
What does it mean, wish of others?
For the good of others.
For the good of others, yes, you can. You can visualize the other person. In any case, when you surrender to the neon blue light, the other person will be benefited. You can also send rose pink light to the other person. That is actually sending Swami's love, or wishing the universe to take care of the other person. You can do that also.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
So the question that, not a question, but the difficulty that I always had for the longest time is visualizing the blue light. And even now, I don't think I can ever get the blue light. I get all different colors except for the blue light. So it's like, come on.
That's all right. If you have difficulty visualizing it, you can draw it. You can also keep an image of the 8 on a piece of paper, and probably that blue light will it'll get impressed on your mind. The reason that she has blue is for a particular purpose. So colors have their own vibrations and their own energetic presence. So blue is like, Krishna and Rama and these people are always depicted with blue. Blue is also the color of trust. It's the color of surrender. It's the color of peace. So she probably received it with a certain energetic vibration. Then do an 8 with those.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
Actually, I was thinking about yesterday's session, and as I understood the yesterday's session, what we were saying was that we were trying to go deeper, like right now when we did it with the emotion. So if it is the emotion of anger, then yesterday, I was just trying to compare the methods.
Okay.
And in yesterday's method, where we were talking about direct experience,
yes.
At that time, if we were talking about anger, then what we were saying is we will feel that anger within us. We will stay with the anger without analyzing it or having an internal dialogue about it. And we'll just try to just stay with it. And then my personal experience, because I have practiced that, and my personal experience has been that when I stay with something without having a dialogue about it, then it kind of settles down by itself.
Yes.
So what I was thinking is that how is that practice different from right now that I sat with an emotion and I drew and ate?
Okay. So basically, in both practices, you are creating a separation with something that you are deeply identified with. It's just different methodologies, and sometimes aid can be used in situations when you're so deeply identified, you need a quick fix. It's very practical. But they're all both very useful. You can choose one over the other, that is up to you, or do both. It's like this, once you climb up the mountain, which path you took really doesn't make a difference once you're at the top. So they're all pretty much the same. They're achieving a separation. Once you watch, and separation comes, and then you become disidentified.
I had just a quick comment about that.
Yeah.
Like going from my experience, what I thought was that maybe it's just because I have been doing that for some time now, the method one that we discussed yesterday. What I thought the difference between them I found was that just staying or being with whatever it is that is going on inside me, that takes me towards being. I'm just being with it. I'm not doing anything.
Yes.
And here in figure 8, I had a little bit of difficulty that I was doing.
Very much, yes.
I was putting things here and there, and then, I was visualizing it.
Yes.
So that was a little more towards being, and this was a little more towards doing.
Very much. That's right.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, ma'am. So in the end, we're going to discuss how to put all this together. If you can just be, as you say, it takes you to being, problem solved. Mind is settled, sit quietly. Nothing to be done. When we identify certain things that are preventing us from being, then a certain level of doing is required. But if you can just say, who am I? And just sit in the I. What is the problem? From inside you, you will not feel the need to do anything at all. So, that's the answer. And we can put all this together. For example, you're sitting to do who am I? But you're feeling a little disturbed. Just to mix and match creatively, you could form a golden circle around you, sit in the golden circle, and then do who am I? For example. And when you're trying to meditate, often the same kind of thoughts are coming, and you're being with the thoughts and going within. Good, but if you are finding a same pattern emerging in your meditation, you might want to use 8. So creatively mix and match, all 3 methods are equally powerful and can be used independently. And each one is self-sufficient in itself. Just by watching the emotion, one can come to one's true self. Just by doing who am I, one can come to one's true self. Just by following 8, we can go on clearing our subconscious. What will be left is our true self. Finally, the whole goal is to be one with oneself. Whatever way we take, it's completely all right. For example, I as an individual, my major predisposition is towards who am I. I prefer that, and that works for me greatly, and I do that. Right? I don't use 8 much, only I really need to, but that's my predisposition. You may get attracted to another method. Whatever works for you, it's our. We can just pick that and run with it. Okay.
I think we can conclude the session now. If there's some more questions, okay.
Just the maybe naive question, but you always said the size of the circle to be an arm's length.
Yes.
Is there a specific reason for that? And follow from that, the size of the 2 circles shown here is concentric.
Yes.
Sorry, not concentric, but similar, same size.
Yes.
But can the sizes be very different?
This is what Mrs. Crystal has prescribed. She has received it in her meditation. The thing is, it's like this. If you go to a garden and you want to enjoy its beauty, without knowing the why and how of it, you can enjoy its beauty. So the effectiveness of this is anyway there. But what happens is, it's the mind. It's not just your mind, it's all of our mind. That keeps, you want to know the why and the how, the logic of it. So if you knew that this particular flower is Erangitis, long bottom, something, something. Will that actually help you to experience the beauty of the flower more? Now what I'm trying to say is to reclaim your inner space and to know that we don't need to know these things. It is the mind that needs to know all these things. So Mrs. Crystal, actually many of us had this question, she refrained from answering. That's the long and short of it. It's not important, but it works. And once you do it, you will find that you don't have these questions anymore. I have a question.
We can even do the 8 with the need to understand. You can put need to understand in a circle, and then we'll just not feel the need to understand and just to practice.
See, that's the thing about the mind. It always wants to analyze, understand, but it is this need to know is actually taking us away from experiencing our true self in that moment. And it is driving us. We need to know and understand when we are working. We should be able to tap into that knowledge and use it and keep it back. But when we are doing inner work, the more you don't know, the more you will be able to realize, the more you will be able to experience. So all the logical questions of why this and what is actual, where did it originate this year, how did she get it, all of these things, actually it's the mind. It's not a particular person. All of us experience it. When we meditate, immediately that logical mind will come because it does not want you to go inside. So it will do 100 different things, and as you sit and start doing it, you will experience a lot of doubts coming up. If the doubt has something to do with the process, then it is different. But usually the doubt will be questioning, is it doing this? What is the effect of this? How can it be like this? Can I do a diamond instead of a circle? So all of this stuff will start. And that's the mind's way of keeping you away from the work.
After we had this workshop in the LA Tustin Center, the next day we were driving down to San Diego. Our host was driving us to San Diego, and there was some accident on the freeway and the whole traffic was stuck. And we had to return by 5 o'clock for that evening's talk. So our host was all getting really anxious and what to do. Now he was really becoming breathless. And then after 5 minutes, he suddenly became absolutely calm and joyful. So I asked him what happened, how did this change happen? He just said, I was really anxious about this traffic. I just put the traffic on the other circle. I put myself as while driving, not with eyes closed. He was just doing 8. Suddenly the anxiety left. The traffic was still there, but the anxiety left. So instead of a horrid trip, we had a joyful trip. We still came back in time. We had to start a little earlier. We spent lesser time in San Diego. So what? At least the time we spent was beautiful. We saw fewer things. Maybe instead of 3 places, we went to 2 places. What's the big deal? At least that time spent was beautiful. And all the time before we start the workshop, anywhere, the first thing I do is an 8 with all of you. It's a secret we don't reveal. You won't know it, but we do, because my freedom shouldn't be affected by you. We are here to offer to you what the high sea wants me to offer. And the best way I can do is first do an 8 with all of you. Not to get a physical separation, but, to reclaim our space. And sometimes, not here, you have been a wonderful audience, but in some places, especially with people who are not Sai devotees, we have some very difficult participants. So, just I do an 8. Of course, we don't let them know, but I'll be just doing like 8. And most of the times, suddenly the whole problem disappears. Because I have reclaimed my space, we respond from that space, and suddenly the whole situation changes energetically. So just examples of how, this thing works all the time. These are, of course, specific situations, as Supriya was explaining. We can also use it in more generic situations on a continuous basis. Yeah. So we will kind of almost at the end of what we wanted to offer. So freedom is the mother of all virtues. All love, peace, non-violence, everything comes first from inner freedom. And that's what this workshop is all about. So as we discussed, we can use all the techniques, together, we'll mix and match. Basically, when we start to become free here, we will know it. There will be no doubt. We will know that the freedom, inner freedom is starting to emerge. So we could use whatever methods we want to use. Can you go to the next slide? This is finally the most important slide of all. Remember to remember. So next time, when there's an emotional onslaught, we have to remember to stay with the emotion instead of reacting. That nobody can help. So we have to remember to remember. The next time when I'm having self-doubt, I must ask, who is having the self-doubt? Who am I? Remember to remember. Next time when I'm getting stuck in a situation or an emotion or a thought pattern, to do 8. So remembering to remember is the most important thing. That's actually 90% of the work. The remaining 10% is the process. So that's it. This is our last slide. We value your feedback. Usually we give printed forms, but we don't waste paper. So do let us know. We'll leave our emails. Let us know what worked, what did not work, how we did, just so that we can improve, what we did well, what we could have done better. So do let us know. You can reach us at Supriya can be reached here, I can be reached here. You could write to one of us, both of us, whatever you wish. So do let us know. You could also use these emails to get clarifications, ask questions. Once you have practiced these methods, if you want to share your feedback as to how you feel, so that we could use that in our future workshops, without, of course, taking your name, so those things help. So to the extent that you want, we allow you to keep in touch with us. Because once somebody attends a workshop, there is a certain level of commitment that we feel towards the participants. So to the extent that you wish, we will be accessible on these coordinates. What next? Well, once we start practicing this deeply, there might be other situations that we might want to look at. Once we are doing Who Am I, we might get stuck at a certain place. There might be certain thought patterns. Then, other than figuratives, this is the beginning. There are many more symbols Phyllis has offered. And similarly, so there are deeper ways, and this is an endless journey. So once we have gone to a certain extent deeper in our practice, we could offer this. But this is not offered just like that. This is only for those who have practiced these techniques for a sufficient amount of time, have been with it, and have experienced something, but they want to deepen their experience, something that this is possible. This can be done in Parthi. If a group of you are visiting Parthi, we could do it. If we happen to come here, if Swami wills us anywhere in this country again, then it can be done. I just want to put that thought out there. So that's about it. So thank you very much. All of you, from our heart, we're saying, not to flatter you, you've been such a wonderful group of participants, so engaged. We can see in your eyes. It's not just about the questions or the words, but when we are watching, we can see the level of engagement, the level of interest, which has been tremendous. And that's the only thing that motivates us. So thank you very much again for this opportunity. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Sai Ram.